So we're going to print these plates. We have the first image that we had the first time we printed them, and then we played with aquatint on them. So we have a spit bite here, and then this one we had soap ground on it, and then this one we have sugar lift, and then a spit bite inside the sugar lift. So I painted on with the sugar lift, and then I put on the thin layer of hard ground, and then after that we put it in a hot water bath. The sugar lift lifted off, so we have the stencil. Before that I put an aquatint on the plate, and then I brushed spit bite on there, and then what we need to do then is clean these guys off, clean the ground off, and then we'll print them. And we have, first we'll use our mineral spirits and a pig wipe to clean off both the hard ground and also clean off. Here I had some hard ground, and then I also had some drawing with the litho crayon, and then also some drawing with the soap ground. So we'll clean those off. And when we clean off an aquatint, mineral spirits doesn't dissolve the rosin, so we need to then also clean with some denatured alcohol. We'll do that after we do the mineral spirits. Wow, some of that soap ground was really thick. I'm going to use a pig wipe and some denatured alcohol. There we go. That will get rid of the rosin powder that's on the plate. And then we're going to ink these babies. We'll use a card to take the ink out of the can. Use some sepia ink again. We always put it on with a card and we push the ink down in, and we push from a lot of different directions. First step, we're trying to push the ink down into the plate, trying to fill up the plate with ink so every spot is filled with ink. And this one has a lot of dry point in it, so then dry point should, pulling a lot of different directions is good. You could also hit it with the dauber. We want to have the ink at this point to be thick enough on the plate that it's as thick as the deepest line is deep. And then we could hit it with one of these daubers. It's not the best one. Push ink into all of them. And then when I feel like I've filled all the lines. That's the first phase, is us filling all the lines with ink. And when I feel confident that I've filled them all with ink, then I want to take off some excess ink. And when I'm taking off the excess ink, I still want to push down in the same way I did when I was adding the ink. I'm using the card to push down into the plate so I can get excess off without taking ink out of the texture. But we want to do that. If we don't do that, we skip this step, we're just filling up our tarlatan with ink. It's going to take longer to print, and we're just going to waste tarlatan and waste ink. So we want to remember this step. Oh man, I didn't get my ink all the way out to the edge. We get to start to see the image. We can definitely see through the ink, whereas before we couldn't really see through the ink. When we were first putting it on, we wanted it thick enough to where you don't really see through it. But at this point, we should start to see the image a little bit. And then we're going to hit it with the tarlatan. Bunch up the tarlatan. We want to get the edges so the edges are sort of hidden, so we can hide those inside. There's a lot of different ways you can fold up your tarlatan. But bunching it works pretty nicely. Bunch it in the back. And then try to get something that feels like this part of your hand. And then you start wiping these babies. I got a clean tarlatan here. Tarlatan with some ink on it's a little bit better. I think what I'm going to do is start around each of the plates, and that will start to get the ink on the tarlatan. We want to work our way around the outside edge. If we work around the outside edge, we won't miss the edge, and that's the tendency, is to miss the edge of the plate. If you try to focus on the edges, especially on a small plate, you hit the center as well. But if you start with the center is going to get wiped, and the edges aren't going to get wiped. So you want to work your way around the edges. You want to wipe the whole plate together. You don't want part of the plate completely wiped and another part that hasn't been started. You want your hand to move really fast on the plate, and if you feel like it's a ball bearing in your wrist, that's a good feeling. That hand is like loose and fast. And it's good when you're wiping, hitting light areas and dark areas in the same stroke, because we're redistributing ink. We're not wiping it off the plate, we're redistributing it on the plate. And then when you're hitting light and dark areas at the same time, you're moving that ink from the smooth areas into the textured areas. If you try to wipe ink off the plate, that's what you're going to do. You're probably going to end up over wiping the plate. We really are trying to fill the plate with ink so it has as much ink in it as possible. That's going to give us the richest print. Yeah. So we can start to see the images. Working around the outside edge. This was the soap ground, which gives us a lot of interesting different values and texture. I also did some block out on this one with the litho crayon, and that gives some interesting texture. I started these out to get this to have some ink on it. The time when we are really worried about not having ink on there, if it was completely clean near the end of wiping, we might steal ink out of the lines. So I'm going to continue around the outside edge. I already went around each of these once, and I'll come back and go around again. If I sort of move the tarlatan, but I don't want to move to a completely clean area. And then I could finish these guys off. This one needs still a little bit more wiping. We can go all the way to the end just with tarlatan, but we could also finish with some newsprint, and we could also finish with hand wiping or taffeta. A piece of newsprint. Oh boy. We'll use that on one of these babies. Go real fast and light with the newsprint. You always want a hand to move fast. If you go slow, you're going to pull ink out of the line. We want to do a bad job cleaning, not a good job cleaning. So when we move fast, we leave a lot of ink in the plate, and that's what we're after. So we'll finish this guy with newsprint. That one is just going to be the tarlatan, and then this one we could hand wipe, but we can also use taffeta, this really shiny material. And boy, that guy's been inked. Somebody used it when they still had too much ink on their plate. But then we can go across the plate like this, and that will take off. We want it to move fast. It'll take off the tone that's on the surface of the plate without pulling ink out of the texture, the areas that we wanted to print. Okay. I'll give it just a little bit hand wipe. Super fast, light pressure. Oh, a little bit extra ink on here, but we're going to print it. So we'll lay these down on the press bed. I'm going to lay them down the same order as before. Got some paper soaking. Hold it like a diamond so it drips off the bottom. We're going to print on the pulpy side. Run it through, and when we're going over the plates, we're not in a hurry. We can go fast before we get to the plates, but when you feel the plates under there, you slow down so there's time for the ink to come off on the paper. Once you get off, then you can speed up again if you want. We'll compare what we did with the aquatint. I got it crooked. It's not good. Yeah. So this here was the spit bite through the sugar lift. So it got this silhouette from the sugar lift, and then the modulation from the spit bite. This is the soap ground. We got the soap ground brushed in a lot of spots. Where it was thick, it's white. Where it was thinner, it ate through it. And then this guy had just some spit bite brushed in here, but it really didn't change it that much. Maybe I needed to have the spit bite be on there longer. But this one here, I put hard ground, so it's really white where the hard ground was, and then I drew around the edge with the crayon, and that made a sort of a rough edge. But, yeah. Cool, thank you.